shows both candidates are really in a dead tie right now. The latest Civitas poll released by John Locke Foundation showing Beasley and Congressman Ted Budd have 42.3% of voter support right now. Now, the candidates are currently neck and neck, but that could change very quickly since 12% of voters are still undecided.
The latest Marquette Law School poll shows a tight race for governor. Democratic incumbent Tony Evers currently is 45% to Republican challenger Tim Michels at 43%. But considering the undecided voters, it's a dead heat. The race for Senate shows challenger Mandela Barnes with a 7-point lead over current Senator Ron Johnson, 51 to 44%.
So a new poll in the Senate race in Ohio shows Democratic Congressman Tim Ryan with a sizable lead over his Republican opponent. The latest poll from Center Street PAC, a nonpartisan political action committee, shows Ryan leading his Republican opponent, J.D. Vance, 49 to 38% among likely voters. 12% remain undecided.
In a Fox News poll, Fetterman holds an 11-point lead over Oz. And in another post by the Center Street PAC, a nonpartisan political action committee, shows Fetterman with an even greater lead over Oz, showing a 17-point lead.
Val Demings, member of Congress, Democratic member of Congress, former police officer, she has decided to challenge Marco Rubio, the incumbent Republican Florida senator, for his seat. She's currently winning by 4. This could go in any direction between now and November, but we're only 2.5 months away. And to be such a longtime incumbent senator as Marco Rubio, sort of a celebrity senator to the extent that he ran for president and he's more well-known than, pick whoever, Ben Sass, I don't know.
In conservative Kansas this morning, a political earthquake and a big win for abortion rights supporters. Kansas voters rejecting an amendment that would have removed abortion protections from the state constitution. In effect, keeping access to the procedure there.
So I was going to say the governor's race.
I did too.
Wait, there was no question. There was no question in the governor's race, right? We knew that Greg Abbott was going to win, and he wasn't going to a runoff. And we knew that, Beto O'Rourke was going to win his primary and won't be the governor of Texas. So we can stop covering that right now.
Indeed.
It may be funny to you, motherfucker, but it's not funny to me, okay? We're going to make sure.
Oh man, they told me this was Kool-Aid. Oh, prickly pear Kool-Aid, apparently. That's what Democrats need to win. Just take some, what is this from? Incline Cider Company. Thank you, Susan. Prickly pear. I'm a fan. Welcome to me being right about politics 101. Always listen to me. I'm right about 90% of them. Okay, let's get into this real fast and let's see what I can do. Number one, I made a post, a long thread in October 2020 in which I predicted things not just about 2020, but about 2022 as well. Apparently it was October 6th, 2020. I forgot I wrote that. I missed North Carolina and I missed Iowa. And then on election night, November 3rd, 2020, got this like side of my mustache. Just won't pay attention. It won't obey me. November 3rd, 2020, 1 o'clock in the morning, Pacific time. Posted onto Twitter. Have these screenshots. Not sharing them today. Posted onto Twitter saying, hey, we know what it looks like right now. This is what we expected when we recorded stuff back in August and September. We called this the Red Mirage. What we expect is that Wisconsin and Michigan and Pennsylvania will all flip in the middle of the night, and they're going to be blue, and then Georgia as well. I also predicted North Carolina. I was wrong about North Carolina, got all the rest of them right. Middle of the night. Predicted in that thread, Florida in 2022, Wisconsin in 2022, Georgia 2022. My prediction there, by the way, into 2022, which I made back in October of 2020, before that election was even over with. I don't know, is that election even still over with? It depends which candidate you ask. 54 to 46. For 54 to 46 is what I predicted back in October of 2020. Now, I have a history of being right. Not just about this, but basically just, I have a history of being wrong about a few things as well. But I was also right about last year's Nebraska football record at 3-9. Made that prediction well in advance. It's also a comment that I put on YouTube. Well in advance, they went 3-9. Now, let me begin this by saying, fuck you 538 and your little laughing bullshit. Ha ha ha. Beto's not going to win. Ha ha ha. I realize that's not the Senate, but fuck you. And you in particular, Nate Silver, and whoever Galen or whatever the fuck your name is. All right. Especially you, the kid from Texas wearing the Texas Rangers ball cap, who didn't even know things about Texas. Why are you on 5? Oh, never mind. It makes sense because 538 is always wrong about everything. They're the reason that the people that are on the far right constantly say bullshit about pollsters. Because the people at 538 are wrong about everything. They're not wrong about everything, but they piss me off. Also, Nate Silver pisses me off. Now, let me just say this. We're not going to go over every Senate election. Let me give you a reason why. There's one in Oregon this year. Ron Wyden, who I think has been there since 88 or something, is going up against Joe Ray. I forget her name. She's Q adjacent. He's going to win by like 50, 60 points. All right, cool. That one's over. I also, by the way, I'm not going to mention Oregon when it comes very specifically to the gubernatorial race, in which I've actually seen videos that show Oregon flipping red when it comes to the governor. I'm sorry, what? You mean the state that elected the first openly gay or openly gay woman, lesbian, whichever, governor in the history of the country, that one, and then elected her again, that one? The state which just in 2020 decriminalized basically all drugs which aren't methamphetamines. The state that in 2020 and in Multnomah County, the highest, the most populous county in the state, which voted overwhelmingly like 80 to 20 for Joe Biden. You know, Multnomah County, known for being just, lean left. Progressive Multnomah County, where we are no fan of the former president, or, well, okay, also, but are not necessarily big fans of the current president. 80 to 20. Also Multnomah County, which voted in 2020 to tax the rich. FYI, Oregon, fairly well known for having lots of fucking rich people. I'm sorry, say what you want about the elitist folks on the East Coast. Us here on the West Coast, we're elite too, okay? Thank you. Working on it. Now, actually, and you get to thank Susan because she did a lot of shit with this that she does not get enough credit for, and that I threw on her at the last minute, and that I had actually mentioned that, and I feel really bad about it. I really wish that she was in here doing this because there's some things on here that I don't remember. But that it actually said we're going to put higher taxes on cigarettes. Multnomah County, Washington County, which voted in the 70s for Joe Biden. That's actually where we live, but in the 70s. And that this past election in May overwhelmingly voted to ban e-cigarettes and ban flavored cigarettes and any kind of nicotine in the entire county. Sure, we're going to vote for somebody that's not a Democrat. Sure we are. The thing now, I mind you, Rachel Bytecofer, by the way, Bytecofer, I forget how to say her last name, a wonderful journalist. She lives here in Oregon, wrote some great stuff about how Betsy Johnson could help to, kind of fuck things up and stuff like that. I see that. Betsy Johnson is pretty well known in the state, though, for being a really shitty person. So I think that Tina Kotek is going to win. She'd be the first bisexual. No, I'm sorry, I said something wrong earlier. Kate Brown was the first bisexual woman. Tina Kotek would be the first openly gay woman in governor in the country. Okay, cool. Oregon's not going to go red. Why do I even have to say these things? Okay. So let's do this. Let's look at what there is. I don't remember where Susan got this from. I feel like there's a link in the description, or I didn't put it in there yet. Green colored state on the given map, all general election polling data for that state. Senate race, states in the darker gray don't have any polls yet. States in lighter gray have no Senate election this year. Let me just go ahead and go out on a limb here and tell you. California, blue. Alaska, red. Hawaii, blue. Oregon, blue. Idaho, red. North and South Dakota, red. Oklahoma, red. Kansas, a little bit more of a toss-up than you'd think. Iowa, red. Arkansas, man, I really want him to win. Illinois, blue. Indiana, red. Alabama, red. South Carolina, red. Maryland, blue. New York, blue. Cool. There you go. You're welcome. Now then, let's get to the ones that we think there might, that are out there that has polling data and stuff like that. Washington, blue. Nevada's a fun one. Arizona, Utah, Colorado. We're going to get into those. What I also want to get into right now, though, is something here where we're going to talk about Hispanic voters for a moment. Hispanic voters, and I'm going to take this away for just like half a second. Hispanic voters in 2020, especially in Texas, flipped. A bunch of them flipped in 2020. I think Hidalgo County went like a 70-point swing or something like that. It still didn't flip over to give you an idea of how much they vote Democrat in those counties. It still didn't flip over to the Republican side, but there was a massive shifts all over. And I actually late last year, early this year, recorded a few videos in which I was talking about Ben Shapiro's most recent book. And he mentioned how something about Hispanics, etc., and stuff like that. And he wasn't exactly far off. And then, of course, we're looking at some things that had happened to Democrats in some polling, and then, of course, in some elections here over the course of the past few months. In Texas, in South Texas, west of San Antonio, and then further south as well. And what we saw was that it seemingly is that it was tilting toward the Republicans. And I even made comments late last year, early this year, in that Republicans were going to trounce the Democrats in the November midterm elections. Very specifically, I said, and then I even said, and I have the screenshot somewhere. I meant to put it on here, but I didn't, and I apologize. If I find it, you'll find it on Twitter or something like that. But to where it says that I will post this and I will say that I'm wrong about it. I said that Democrats were taking Hispanic votes, Latino votes for granted. And they were. And also maybe still are. But I think, or rather, methinks that Republicans may have overstepped a bit in what they were thinking that they could get away with Latino votes. And that is because some upwards of, 7 in 10 voters in, let's just say, South Florida, let's just say South Texas, 7 in 10 say that they are in favor of keeping abortion legal, regardless of their current political affiliation. That means something. We had seen momentum with Republicans, and then, of course, I don't need to go over and relitigate things that Democrats have done over the course of the past 2 years, do I? Please don't make me. It's very sad. Or rather, not done. But what I will do is say, let's start at about, and I make this joke, but it's seemingly not a joke, is that Republicans coming into January, into like midway through this year, just about, it's like they looked around and they saw the most favorable midterm election, certainly more favorable than 2010, or even something, the Tea Party thing with Ted Cruz and things like that. And they said, hey, this looks really amazing. And then Mitch McConnell looked over at, I don't know, pick one, Rand Paul, and he was like, well, I wonder what the Democrats would do, right? And then that's what they have been doing. They have been Democrating this up. Now, I beg you, Democrats, to not Democrat what they've tried to Democrat up. But it is as if they have taken every single step, have the Republicans, and I mentioned this on the last live stream, but the Democrats have taken, or the Republicans seemingly have stepped on a landmine in seemingly every single step. And they continue to do that. I forgot to add one of the videos in which Mitch McConnell, the leader of the Republican Party, this past week said out and out on national television, admitted himself and said it's because of the quality of the candidates that the Democrats are going to retain the Senate. He said that in August. The leader of the Republican Party already sees that. And it's amazing because the Democrats were not only floundering, we are talking about not just a reverse of 2018, but a complete, absolute demolition. Losing the House, absolutely. Losing the Senate, the thing that when you talk about the last 4 years of Obama's presidency, you talk about the last 4 years and you talk about, wow, he didn't get anything done. A lot of that was because Mitch McConnell, who became the Senate Majority Leader on the back half of Obama's presidency, the back nine, if you will, the former president knows what I'm talking about. He called himself the Grim Reaper. He said that they weren't going to allow anything to pass. And they didn't. Go in and look now at what was on the cusp of happening again. And then think into 2024, in which you have a Joe Biden who was not going to be able to be reelected. Possibly even looking at the possibility of a primary. And the other guy winning because Democrats are so out of order, out of place, completely basically Democrat. The people who, I don't know if you know this or not, I'm fairly left. FYI, if you're just tuning in. And that means that what I would say is that the people who I was hoping to have me represented in Congress or represent me in Congress would be doing the opposite of representing me in Congress. And so that's what I had like envisioned happening over the course of the next 2 to 4 years. And that the other guy, the guy who literally apparently committed treason, just saying, would have been reelected. That was what I was envisioning as early or as late as January and February and March, in which they weren't able to get anything done. And then all of the fucking sudden, like, shit started changing. And not just changing, it did a 180. And now Republicans, for the first time as far as I can remember, can't get out of their own way. By the way, Susan, if it's possible for you to come back in here and run these slides, I would be just or come in here and run these slides. I would be the most thankful today that I could possibly be. Because I put hotkeys on my keyboard, but then I like hid my keyboard away from myself so I didn't click on it. But then Republicans started to, and Republicans then started to, I don't know, put into the primary some people who Mitch McConnell would say maybe not the highest quality. Hey, babes, thank you. Yes, I knew you were too. And no, I didn't hear. But Mitch McConnell then is correct. And earlier today, I think the best time that I have had with doing some impressions, right? And one of my favorites, I did an impression of a pro-German person from the 1930s and 40s. That's what they call the Nazis. And it's like Georgia had an opportunity to maybe do things with Raphael Warnock, right? To maybe possibly be able to get him out of the way. And instead, the former president, who, as I understand, endorsed Herschel Walker, right? He came up and he was like, yes, I bet you would like to win. Susan, they would like to win in Georgia. Right? I bet. And they nominated Herschel Walker. And that's what it's been like since then. That's what it's been like for Republicans since Roe v. Wade, by the way. Since Roe v. Wade was overturned, Republicans have done nothing but flounder. And I went over this in the last video, but now we have polling data, absolute numbers. That's not the Nazi, that's just German. Ist mein Vater. All right. That's not how you say Faja. It's a J or something like that. It's not mein.
You say Darth Vader, damn it.
Das Vader. Ist mein slideshow. I don't know what slideshow is in German. I feel bad about that. Do we have a slide?
You want me to look it up?
Do we have a slide? Yeah. Okay. What do we have for a slide? Okay. Seen that one. The green ones we're maybe going to talk about. We're going to talk about some of the green ones for sure. I don't know if we're going to talk about Kentucky, Rand Paul. What do we have? Oh, what
we do?
Welcome to Kentucky. Or if you're in like the Hunt for Red October and you're Sam Neill, right? No, that's.
Oh no, that's Sean Connery.
But no, he wanted to go to Ohio. That's my bad.
Oh, okay.
That's my bad. He said because he said that he would like to have seen Ohio. Okay. Question: if the 2022 election was for Kentucky's U.S. Senate seat were held today, for whom would you vote? If the candidates were Charles Booker, the Democrat, and Rand Paul, the Republican, Kentucky said, fuck you, Affordable Care Act. And all the health care you've given us, we're going for Randy Paulness, who is an anti-vax person.
Also, his neighbor beat him up.
His neighbor beat his ass. Put him in a cast, didn't he?
I don't know.
Good. So Kentucky is going to stay red. We already kind of know that. I felt like Booker probably had a good shot 2 years ago, but Rand Paul not anymore. No. Yeah, no. Yeah, what's next? Louisiana, the goddamn state of Louisiana. For some reason, it's got a high pitched voice. For some reason, if the U.S. Senate, if the election, my bad, if the U.S. Senate were held today, which candidate would you support? The one who went to Oxford or Chambers? I'd like to point out that I asked that in that particular accent and asking, would you vote for the one who went to Oxford or the one who didn't go to Oxford? Yeah. Ask it like that. The one who has a Juris Doctorate from the University of Virginia. The one who I understand was the salutatorian of his high school class. The one who went to Vanderbilt, the SEC paragon of absolute education. Who would you vote for? You wouldn't vote for that person if you're from Louisiana, would you? Because that's the elitist. The last Democrat. Very true. Okay, fair enough. That's the elitist Kennedy went to all of those schools, by the way, and who was under a Democrat. I went back to Germany there. A Democrat in Democratic Justice in. He worked for the Democratic governor of Louisiana in the 90s. He was a Democrat, but he went to Oxford. He's going to win by a lot. I mean, it's Louisiana.
Mike Foster.
Thank you. I didn't remember either. Important to note that the state of Louisiana is also utilizing their incredible theocratic powers to withhold aid and money from the city of Nolens, which is related to ensuring that they have clean water and that they have protection from any type of catastrophic flooding in the future. They're withholding that aid and that money that's necessary for that simply because the city of Nolens has said, you know what, it kind of feels like women should have, rights over their own bodies. FYI. Good job, Louisiana and super elite Kennedy, representing you from the Republican Party. Tell me this gets better. Okay. This one's actually kind of interesting. If the 22 general elect 2020.
For a second there, I thought I had grabbed 2020 numbers, and I was very, very worried.
If the 2022 general election for U.S. Senator, notice that it doesn't say U.S. Senate. This is how you can tell it's from Utah. Also, because at the very top right of the screen is that cool little Utah honeybee thing. Yeah, that's like their state symbol or some shit. I thought it was something to do with the tabernacles or something. No, it's a honeybee. I feel like I did a live stream about this back like a year and a half ago. Yeah, about the Utah and the honeybee thing. Were held today. Who would you vote for? 41% say Mike Lee, who is the incumbent Republican. And then 36% say Evan McMullin, who is an independent that has. He's we read his website. Went and read this. Yep. And he is very much independent, but certainly is not a Republican. The fact that he's within 5 points, and you look at that 14% other and 8% don't know. That should be a bit of a little bit, a hint of what's to come, but also a little bit if you're a Republican going, bleh? What? In Utah? Where you would not expect these things, and yet Utah has universal mail-in ballots? What? Utah? Yeah. That's a race to watch. Surprising you, aren't I? What is next? Oh, this looks like Michigan. Oh, I messed this one up before. Tammy Duckworth is in Illinois.
Yes.
Okay. Don't you get after me. I can't know. I can't know all 100 of them. But I corrected myself. She's in Illinois. Or if you're from Nebraska, Illinois. Wait. For whom would you vote if the candidates are Tammy Duckworth? Reminder that Tammy Duckworth, the people that are voting for Kathy Salvi, a reminder here, Kathy Salvi, of course, denies the outcome of the 2020 election and is subservient to the former person. And Tammy Duckworth, of course, is a U.S. veteran, U.S. military veteran who in combat. A reminder that now, is that a reason to vote for somebody? No, unless you're a Republican. In which 34% of Republicans so far say, no, we hate the truth, reality, and veterans. Now, is that what they're saying? 2 out of 3, yes. They are saying, I hate the truth and reality. Yes. Are they saying they hate veterans? Also, yes.
Yeah.
Now, don't know, undecided, 20%. Well,
I don't see how you could be. Well, okay. When was this done? When was this poll?
I don't know. You're the one that found it.
This poll was conducted July 17th through 19th of this year. Obviously, this year. With a margin of error 2.82%.
Okay. So there is no way in hell that Kathy Salvi is going to win Illinois. This is
Some unforeseen circumstances.
unless we find out that Tammy Duckworth helped to foment an insurrection, which we know that the Republicans would never actually be in favor of.
Well, what's funny is the same poll, the poll was conducted by Victory Research. Tammy Duckworth has 72.5% of the people who were polled that were Democrats said they'd vote for Tammy Duckworth. 30.2 that said they would vote for Tammy Duckworth were independents. 9.6% of Republicans said they would vote for Tammy Duckworth.
Well then,
Polled.
9.2% of the Republicans said we're not okay with an insurrection.
Yeah, 9.6.
All right, whichever. I don't know. Probably somewhere. You're probably right. And I just, yeah. Interesting. Hey, that's almost 10% of Republicans.
Yeah.
All right.
At least the one.
Illinois, solid blue. If the Georgia election for U.S. Senator were today, who would you vote for? Raphael Warnock. Okay. This 46 to 42% thing is not, this isn't accurate. He's up by double digits.
Okay, but I just want to point out something.
Yeah, who's this from?
Fox News.
Boom.
This poll is from Fox News.
Fox
So it's
News. Fox News has him up by 4. Now, Fox News is fairly nonpartisan when it comes to their polling, but I like that it says rotate names, by the way.
Yeah, so you're not asking like
Yeah.
Raphael Warnock the first the whole time.
So yeah, that way you don't always see, the incumbent at the top.
Yeah.
Raphael Warnock is beating Herschel Walker so bad, Herschel Walker might give up his Heisman Trophy. He might be like, stop beating me like I beat my wives.
Dang.
Type thing.
Allegedly?
No.
Do we have to say allegedly?
No.
Has he been convicted?
I'm pretty certain that's a thing.
I mean, we'll just say allegedly just to cover our asses.
Okay, fine.
Allegedly.
She said it. I didn't.
Allegedly.
Okay.
You can say anything you want as long as you say allegedly.
Herschel Walker put a gun to his ex-wife's head and said that he was going to blow her brains out. Not allegedly. That's what she said.
That happened.
See? The wait. Oh wait, no, hold on. This one works just fine too.
Yeah, because this is from.
Because that's 5 points.
Yeah, this is 5 points. This is done by Beacon Research.
Okay.
It was conducted a little bit earlier in July than Fox
So before everything else, before Magalaro was what they went in there, and after they'd already talked to him, and then went in and without actually breaking the door down and certainly telling them in advance they were coming, came and got everything. I don't know that the former president had stolen from the White House and then lied about having. And which is funny because earlier today, if you remember this, he actually said, "Hey, I want to get in touch with the FBI because I want to know what all they have," which shows that even he didn't know what he had in his possession. So, anyways, this is before all of that. This is now it's after Roe v. Wade was overturned. This is before or during maybe the whole thing, because it's been what, 2 weeks almost since they went into the former president's country club house and said that it was before that then that we would like all of these top secret nuclear codes, please. Now, is it nuclear codes? I don't know. Does that have to do with nuclear stuff? Yes. Does that mean Rick Perry's involved? Who knows? He thinks that being in charge of all that means that he's in charge of the nukes. Secretary of Energy. That's what we did there. Anyways, this polling is actually about a month out as well. This race they thought was a toss-up. Raphael Warnock is one of the most well-liked senators in Washington. I would be surprised if this is within 8 or 10 points. Holy shit. This is 5. With 7, maybe insurrection, maybe not. I just haven't made up my mind yet.
Maybe a gentleman with, CTE.
Maybe not have the it's not as if Republicans care about abusive people.
That's true.
They don't care about that. I mean, it's not as if Republicans care about reality. Okay, my bad. MAGA. There is a difference between your regular conservative Republican and your MAGA. Yes, there's a difference. There is a difference. I'm doing my best to not alienate those who are like, you know what? Completely against a former guy who was black, but also not okay with insurrection. So yeah. Raphael Warnock's going to win it. And by the more that he wins by, the more likely it is Stacey Abrams wins. Yep. Who's next? Chuck Schumer is next. He's going to win by 20 points. Chuck Schumer, of course, the current House Senate Majority Leader. Chuck Schumer on the Democratic Party line, 56%, with 86% of Democrats saying, yes, we would like to have him. 14%, hey, Maya, of this is actually amazing. 14% of Republicans saying, hi there, we'd like to vote for the guy that's not in favor of insurrection. Right? 14% of people from the opposing party. Yeah. Now, with that being said, Joe Pinion.
Is that an actual person or is that someone made up by a marketing firm?
Who knows? But
you know what? That's just my opinion.
At 35%, he's still got 9% of the Democratic vote, which makes me think that there's a few Democrats who are anti-Semitic. They're probably the atheists. 77. He only has the support of 77% of Republicans. And by the way, he also toes the line on the former president.
Look at that huge disconnect on opinion in the gender.
Yep.
Like the gender.
Yep.
Part. Like 42% male.
Yep.
29% female.
Yep.
While Chuck Schumer is 49 and 62.
Yep. Look at 95% of people that say we're liberal and 57% of people that say that we're moderate, 15% who are conservative. That's a big deal. You see New York City as well. And then ethnicity, 83% of Black people living in New York. And then my favorite part of this is that 65% of people 18 to 34 is not that far off from the 58% of people 55 and up. I find that to be rather interesting, as well as the people who don't make that much money and the people that make more than that are about even. So good job, Chuck Schumer. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer. What state is next? Wisconsin. That is Wisconsin. That's fine. Wisconsin. 51. This is important. Polling dates. June 46-44. 2 points. With 7% saying I don't know. August 46, 47, 48, 49, 50, and 51. Doing math that you can't currently see on the screen. I was counting on my fingers. That's 5. The don't knows went down. That means that people looked at this and said, wow, Ron Johnson is a fucking traitor, and we would rather not have him in office. And also, now we know this is also partially because between June and August, Wisconsin had their primary, just had their primary last week. And you had Johnson's challengers drop out of the race and subsequently or simultaneously endorse him. And he is very popular in the state, as you can see, whereas Johnson is not. And notice that this is registered voters. This is an important thing I'm going to get into in a little bit. August 10th to 15th, 811 Wisconsin registered voters, margin of error of plus or minus 4.2. I'm going to get into who they call, who they talk to, who the hidden votes are, and then why this should be, why if you are somebody who is a Democrat or liberal, or you just don't want to have treasonous insurrectionists in your Congress, why this should be something that excites you. Yeah. Who we got?
Oh, it's the Fox News poll.
Yes. Remember, it was 51 to 44. This is the Fox News one. Pretty much the same time frame, 50 to 46. Man, I bet the former president was not happy about that. Good.
You know what? And that makes me happy.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I bet that there are people who are at Fox News. I can't help it. No. Who are at Fox News that are like, I bet he is not happy about this. I bet the former president.
I imagine there are people who work at Fox News.
Yes. Oh, we're big fans of Tucker. Get around the defenses at CNN like there's a Maginot Line. That's my second Maginot Line joke today. Yes. I had to put it in again. I could not help myself. I went from 2 different accents there. I went to the British version. The British version of a Nazi. We call that Donald Trump.
Moving on.
Get me off the screen. This is Washington State. This is the U.S. Senate ballot. If you had a Democrat on, who would you vote for? The Democrat. That's just how that's going to go. Democrat, the state of Washington is solidly blue, going to win by 20 points. Like just by itself. The state of Washington is going to go to the Democrats by at least double digits, nearing 15 to 20. Oregon is more red than Washington is. So that's an important note to make. Yes, it does. Seattle, Spokane, Olympia, Tacoma. They have more of a nice little row. If you follow I-5 up or down, depending on which direction you go, they have a nice, because here in Oregon, we have Portland, and then we have Salem, and then we have Eugene, and then Bend as well. And in Washington, it's quite a few more people. I I would put it closer to 15 even than I would to 10 up in Washington. So Murray is going to be, he, by the way, is the, or Murray is the incumbent. He? No. Yes. I forget.
No.
It's Patty. Okay, that's what I was thinking. I was like, hold on a second. I'm wrong about this.
And then Tiffany Smiley.
Yes.
I like the fact that
Denies the election.
so
Just
this is and what's particularly funny is that it's a McLaughlin and Associates poll from August 2022. And Tiffany Smiley, they did the poll in the image. 15% have no opinion on Tiffany Smiley. 21% haven't even heard of her.
yeah.
Like when you are running for federal office and people haven't heard of you, like almost a quarter of the people polled hadn't heard of her.
Yep.
That's really sad.
Yeah. That is because the Republican Party in Washington is becoming a lot like the Republican Party in Pennsylvania, in which the RNC of the GOP exactly is not down with giving them money. If you were unaware, and we're going to get into Arizona here, I imagine, in a little bit, but also in Arizona and Pennsylvania and various other states that are considered necessary for the Republicans to win, to not just maintain, but to stop the Democrats from expanding their majority, they're pulling tens of millions of dollars in advertising money from those states. Now, they didn't have any money in Washington anyways, but this is an example of what can happen. Now, I realize that you don't have and also in Georgia, that you don't have Mehmet Oz as a big name person in Washington. I imagine that many of you are not from the Seattle state. It's actually what's funny is that stupid Washington is the Evergreen state or the Apple state, depending on which state. Nevada's a silver state. And Oregon is the beaver state. I'm pretty certain we have more evergreens. Okay. Anyways, that's it. We're the ones with them on our fucking license plate, folks. But this is a thing where in Washington, you have never heard of the Republican candidate because the Republicans don't think it's worthwhile to spend money there because they know it's a lost cause. Arizona, Georgia, Pennsylvania. Those are three that Republicans would rather not, because one of those is a flip. Washington's not.
No.
What do we got? This is Vermont. Yes, I'm so certain that Bernie Sanders' home state is going to flip to a Republican.
Well, what I think is particularly funny is that
I got something. Yeah.
For some reason, I was thinking that they hadn't actually fully elected either a Republican or a Democrat in like ages.
Yeah.
But Patrick Leahy obviously was Democrat, and Bernie is an independent.
Yes.
So
I think either New Hampshire or Vermont has had a Republican recently, but you imagine Bernie Sanders, right? Because this is like the don't know, undecided, the independent type votes, the 10%. I can imagine Bernie Sanders being his socialist self, right? Because that's apparently what he is. Taking his votes and being like, we do not get to distribute my votes amongst all the Republicans because they're not in favor of receiving everybody else's votes. The democracy will not survive. You take my votes, you distribute them amongst the bluest candidates. Vote Bernie. Just write my name. You know, come on. All right, what do you got? Okay, this is. Well, you're gonna take it away in a second because this is the video. Yeah. This is everybody's favorite race. It's not my favorite race. My favorite race is in Texas. But at the election for U.S. Senate being held today, whom you vote for? Dear fucking God, he's up by 18 points. I like that there's 15% undecided.
When it's like really
and
undecided about if you hate Dr. Oz.
Well, they're probably sitting there going, well, I guess I'll just wait and see until this thing that I bought from Dr. Oz's campaign is actually going to, to actually clean out my colon or not. I got some of this cool. There it is. I don't even know that Oz has ever actually. I don't know that he has ever actually peddled colloidal silver. But that was the first thing that we both thought of. Yeah. Like that was not very hard. But we have a couple of videos here, and this gives you an idea, right, of the way Fox News is trying their best. The RNC took all the money out of their race, out of this, all the advertising dollars, which you can't get back. I'm not gonna mention his little gaffe with the vegetables and shit, because you already know about that. I'm not gonna mention his 10 houses, none of which are in Pennsylvania. I'm not gonna mention that. But Fox News is still trying to prop him up. Mehmet Oz, that is, in case you were wondering. And one way that they're trying to do that, Susan, you got the first video here. Yeah. All right, let's just play the video. And I'm sorry you have to see this, but this is from Fox News.
Oz will face off with the state's current Lieutenant Governor, John Fetterman, in this highly contentious race. It's a valuable one for Republicans especially. Oz's opponent is painting him as out of touch, a carpetbagger. It's not even from Pennsylvania, which we know is not true. The media piling on, claiming that Dr. Oz has been nearly invisible on the stump and not running an aggressive campaign. Meanwhile, Fetterman's casting himself as a hero of the working class and a mainstream Democrat. Is that really the facts? His policies appear to be anything but mainstream. He had adoring words for Bernie Sanders in 2016, but this year he's less keen on the progressive label. For example,
I am proud to endorse Bernie Sanders today. And Bernie Sanders and I agree on a lot of other issues, too, that are critical to this country's future.
Are you a progressive?
No, I'm just a Democrat.
Really?
Okay, so Brian Kilmeade, and again, sorry about that. That's it. It was tough for me to watch it, so I can't imagine what it was like for you. Brian Kilmeade, of course, was trying. He actually had Mehmet Oz on his show there, but you've already seen enough of him over the course of the past decade. But the thing there was that trying to frame Democratic Senate candidate John Fetterman as somebody who has flip-flopped on his position, as somebody who back in 2016 said that he was all about Medicare for all and that all of that stuff, and that now no longer, because he's trying to get to a larger voting block, and now he backs away from that. It's exactly what Kilmeade was framing it as. I'm not even saying like that, but rather that was exactly what he was trying to do. But when I was watching that video, I noticed that John Fetterman kept talking. And so I went and I found the actual interview. And the way, what he says next, well, you just watch it and let me, and see if you can notice the slight difference.
Are you a progressive?
No, I'm just a Democrat. that has always run on what I believe and know to be true. And 6 years ago, that was considered progressive. But now there isn't a single Democrat in this race or any race that I'm aware of that's running on anything different. So that's not really progressive. That's just where the party is. And I think that's the essence of what our party stands for.
I saw it go across the screen. I took a drink anyways. But if I may, that is so interesting. It is almost like Fox News is lying. Oh, you are lying, Fox News, like they say the Führer is doing, except I don't believe them either. I believe we are still winning on the Western Front. Oh. Now, what you may have noticed, there's a difference between the two videos. Crazy how that went, because yeah, it does. So we can bring it back this way. Nope, it's not going to. Whichever, there it goes back.
Oh, thank you, camera.
Now, the John Fetterman went on to say that he still considers himself the same person. He still has the exact same policies, but makes the point that the Republican Party, the Democratic Party, his views are no longer considered progressive or extreme, but rather that the Democratic Party, the Overton window has moved. That which was considered to be progressive in 2008 and 2009 with the Affordable Care Act, that's no longer considered progressive. The fact that in the Inflation Reduction Act, before it was stripped because, thanks Republicans, in which they would have capped the cost of insulin copays, was completely stripped out of the act, out of the legislation. 10 years ago, that would have been considered an extreme or a very progressive stance. You would not have seen it in any kind of legislation, certainly not any serious legislation. And so the point, of course, that Senator-elect Fetterman is making there is very clear. And it is also very clear that they are lying. It's the Fox News. They learned it from Goebbels.
This is from different sources. This is from Blueprint. The other one is from Public Opinion Strategies. This one is polling data from Blueprint.
She won't let me talk. Yeah, that's only 9.3. And Josh Shapiro, who, by the way, is the Democratic candidate for governor, winning by 11.3 points. Okay, so I mentioned back in October of 2020, right, that both seats were going to flip. I already mentioned that. I did not realize it would be this bad for the Republicans. It's better for the country overall. What are you clicking on over there? Oh, okay. Yep. Now, if you are a keen eye and you watch this video from the beginning, you might notice that I put something in there that had Tim Ryan in front of J.D. Vance. You might be saying to yourself, Nathaniel, and also to me, how dare you? Yeah, you know what? I did it on purpose. Because the fact that Ohio is in play in the United States Senate should tell you something about the current state of the union, if you will. Undecided is 10%. We call these somewhat and very, very likely general election voters. Again, more on that in a moment, and what that means and who the hidden votes are. But you go from J.D. Vance or Tim Ryan up on J.D. Vance in one poll to J.D. Vance up on Tim Ryan in another poll. There's some volatility in Ohio. What is going on in John Kasich's hometown state? John Kasich. There's one. Sometimes the German accent stays. It's John Kasich. Not moving on. You had to make a choice. Who would you vote for? North Carolina. Hello.
This is this is polling data from Signal.
Hello. Look at this. North Carolina. Tied. 42.3 to 42.3. North Carolina. Remembering this again is that the Republicans already said, we know that we can't lose certain states if we're not only going to try to, at this point, they're not even trying to retain, to take the Senate. They're just trying to retain some modicum of, can we keep it fucking close? You're losing badly, or if you will, I'm not going to use that phrase, in Arizona. Did we talk? We didn't talk about Arizona yet. Okay. Well, they are. And in Pennsylvania. And in so many other states. And you're trying to say, hey, we're going to try to stop the Democrats from expanding their majority. You're tied in North Carolina. You're down double digits in Georgia. You're down double digits in Pennsylvania. We're going to get to Arizona in a second. Not only are you trying to salvage something, you're in danger of losing 3 seats. This is only getting worse for them. And again, you stick with it for a little bit. I'm going to tell you why it's going to get worse.
So the next slide. This one is from Blueprint. The previous one was from Signal. That was polling done August 13th through 15th. This Blueprint one was done.
When is this?
Beginning of
The Dobbs decision. This is 6 weeks after Dobbs.
Yeah, so I mean it was like beginning of August, like late July, early August.
Up here, up by 4.
Oh,
the
4
other
through 6.
The other one, okay, so we're talking about up 4 and tied at 42, right? Or 43.2. What we're talking about here is 49% of North Carolina voters, they oppose the Dobbs decision. Beasley leading among women 52 to 36%. That's 52 to 36. They call these likely voters. Give me another state, Susan. What do we got next? Because I'm going to get into the likely voters thing. This one, New Hampshire is going to go to the Democrats. FYI, New Hampshire is going to go Democrats. I know what they're saying about how New Hampshire can kind of sometimes go back and forth. New Hampshire is going to go to the Democrats. They're currently up by 4 with the margin of error. What is that margin of error? 2.5 up to 3, maybe 4, but they're currently up by 4, which is phenomenal already in New Hampshire, a state which they say it can go back and forth, and it has in Republican versus Democrat in general elections every 4 years. Susan, who's the next state? Sorry, I'm kind of flying through them right now. Nevada. Catherine Cortez Masto is currently looking like, and she's the incumbent. This is a scary one for Democrats. Now, when was this polling done, Susan?
August 15th.
Okay, this one is scary for Democrats because this was seen as not maybe not like the number 1 chance for a pickup, for a flip, but this was seen as one that was possible because she was seen as a very vulnerable candidate, especially in a state in which MAGA is trying to control everything. And so in Nevada, right now, this is possible. Do I see it? No, I don't. Not only the undecided 5.5, when this one was in August, but I'm going to get to that in a second. But currently, this is a big pickup for Republicans because this would flip one of the seats in the Senate. and could possibly, if things actually go their way, flip it to make it 51-50. Do I think that's how that's going to go? No, I don't. And Alex.
Still 5.5% undecided, and like a measurable amount, a measurable number of responses for who I'm assuming is the Libertarian.
Neil Scott. Neil Scott is going to split some of the conservative votes. All right. Nevada's a possible. In fact, we could actually give Nevada to the Republicans and it wouldn't matter, and I'll explain why. Who's next? Missouri. Okay. This one is, so Eric Schmidt is the Republican who was endorsed by the former president, as was Eric Greitens. I know, me too. Now, that 18% undecided is really, really important. I do think that the Republicans are going to hold on to Missouri, but I think it's going to be closer than the 6% that it gives right now, partially because that 18% of Republicans in the GOP primary voted for Eric Greitens in a fairly hotly contested GOP primary in Missouri, in which the former president endorsed Eric. All the Erics except his son. And so what we're talking about here is an 18% undecided amount of voters, which will likely bring that within a couple of points. Missouri is still going to stay red, though. Yeah, and this was one of those, because this is what, from 270 or something? Or I forget what it's from, but I know that I found it on 270, to where it was, if this was Eric Schmidt versus Trudy Bush Valentine, this is what it would look like. They had them against one another, the top three. We already knew that Trudy Bush Valentine was going to be the Democratic candidate, but if it was against these top three Republicans, how would it go? It looked best for Trudy Valentine versus Eric Greitens, but still within 6 points in a state which has gone further and further to the right, even as St. Louis and Kansas City are on both sides of the state. It has gone further and further right over the course of the past few elections. From what I understand, the Kansas City version isn't bad. Who's next? Yeah, well. Chuck Grassley in Iowa.
This was conducted July 13th to 14th. Emphasized 600 margin of error, 3.95%.
I wouldn't expect this to go further than that. The voters in Iowa were really hurt by the former president's policies, and they continue to be hurt by those. But they are staunch MAGA. Iowa voters overall look like a Nebraska football stadium, and they are MAGA. That is, they do not believe that Joe Biden is legitimate president. They will, and Chuck Grassley won't actually say it out loud. So they are, of course, going to stick with MAGA. This is, of course, Steve King's home state. If you don't remember Steve King, he was the guy who was a straight up white nationalist in Congress from Iowa. They also have Joni Ernst, who I was wrong about in 2020, but happens. Who's next? Florida. Look at this. I actually, again, this is something that I had from 2020 in October of 2020 that predicted Florida would flip in 2022. And look at that. Val Demings, 48. Marco Rubio, 44. Who is this from?
University of North Florida.
There you go. This is a very recent poll.
Yeah, released the 16th.
This is within the last week.
Their primary is on Tuesday.
Yep, and Val Demings is going to win.
Yeah.
She is the overwhelming pick there. So is Marco Rubio. I don't even think he's being primaried. Obviously, you also have the more competitive race there is for the Democratic gubernatorial candidate, but that's going to be, in the end, that's going to be Ron DeSantis anyways. But Val Demings looking like, now mind you, I've seen a couple of polls as well that have them that have them neck and neck, but up by 4 points in a poll. This late in August, especially as we're just looking at their primary. Bleh. And this, of course, sorry, I mean to interrupt you, but this on the heels of Governor Ron DeSantis going after people for voting in Miami-Dade and Broward counties, voting and saying they voted illegally because they had felonies and they could not vote, when back in 2020, the state of Florida overwhelmingly voted in favor of restoring the voting rights for felons. Now, there were, of course, exceptions in that, but guess what? As far as I know, now I could be wrong about this, but these folks who went and voted with the understanding that they could vote. Yeah. Because they went and they registered to vote. They were registered to vote. That they went and they did that. Arresting them for this, especially when you look at the racial demographics in Broward County and in Miami-Dade County, you already know who this affects the most. And not only that, but I think this is what, Amendment 4 or Prop 4 or some bullshit like that. Do you know what it said in there? It said if you want to have your voting rights back, you have to pay for them. Do you know what we call that in the Civil Rights Act? A fucking poll tax. If you want to go and vote again, oh, you got to pay for your restitution. I'm sorry. Yeah. The citizens of Florida didn't vote for that, Ron fucking DeSantis. Just like they didn't vote in favor of you burning down their fucking libraries. Oh, I'm sorry. Can I not say that you're actually not burning down their libraries when you mentioned that I literally burned Portland to the ground? Can I not be partially hyperbolic, Mr. We're going to sue Disney? I have tried to do my best here to just like say what I think things are going to happen. I hope Val Demings beats Marco Rubio by 50. She won't, but I wish. Just so that whenever Ron DeSantis runs for president, she can be there when the former treasonous piece of shit president beats his ass in the primary in Florida. You know what? I would pay to see that bullshit. Fucking hate that dude. Not just the former president. Arizona. You know Republicans want this one. And yet, you know what? They can't have it. Now, if you didn't know, Blake Masters came out of a fairly contentious Republican primary, and Mark Kelly sat around in the background, kind of just sitting there, doing like his whole Mark Kelly thing, like, oh, I'm an astronaut, my wife is Gabby Giffords, like, oh, all of that stuff, and I'm a fairly moderate Democrat sitting here in Congress, not necessarily the most liked guy, but certainly not, doing an insurrection. So, yeah, Blake Masters, of course, said if he goes and he is elected, he's going to go and introduce legislation which would decertify Arizona's 2020 election. Which you can't. So is their fucking so is Carrie Lake.
Yeah, I was gonna say Carrie Lake was the one who was like, I'm gonna switch everything to hand count.
Yes.
And it's all like, that is literally not possible.
Yep. And so did the GOP candidate for Secretary of State. Yeah. Said we're going to make voting, we're going to completely eliminate mail-in voting. We are going to eliminate early voting in Arizona, and we're going to make it so that we're going to eliminate voting we're going to eliminate voting machines, period. Everybody has to vote by hand on one day, and it has to be hand counted. That is the Republican platform in Arizona. Not just that, but also to completely ban abortion. This, by the way, Fox News poll is off by like 4 percentage points. Mark Kelly is up by double digits. And of course, Carrie Lake apparently is endorsing an open anti-Semite as an open anti-Semite. Carrie Lake, if you don't remember or were unaware, she won. She's a former newscaster who won the gubernatorial race pretty handily, by the way, but also donated to Barack Obama. Now, I'm aware that people can switch parties. Absolutely, I am. It's yes, this is a person who apparently had a massive head injury called being away from work in 2020. No, that was just her head injury was being alone on the internet. And she raised her hand and said that she doesn't think that the 2020 election was fair. She doesn't think that it's balanced. She doesn't think that I did the fair and balanced thing on purpose, that Joe Biden is the legitimate president. She said that she doesn't think that she, again, I mentioned the election things. She doesn't think that there should be any abortion at all in the state of Arizona. She said they're gonna finish building the wall, which, if you haven't been paying attention, is hilariously bad and failing right now. Imagine that. Mark Kelly, not only do they need to flip this, Mark Kelly is going to beat Blake Masters so bad. John McCain is going to wake up and be upset about things. And so is Katie Hobbs over Carrie Lake. And this is where I had it ready and I had the clip. Carrie Lake, when she is falling apart over this and she just can't take it anymore. You know what she can do, Susan? Go on Ricky Lake. Love you. They also pulled money out of Arizona as well, did the RNC. Hey, Dallas, good to see you. Yeah, Mark Kelly is going to win by double digits as well. This is kind of like what I mentioned, where it's like a Nebraska football game in 1995, where, you just want to go in there and win and pretend like Blake Masters is from Florida and they went to Arizona and Nebraska won 62-24. It's not going to be that bad. It's not going to be Oregon Ron Wyden bad, in which he might win by that much. But Mark Kelly who again is not like the most well-known, not the most suave. No. Mark Kelly he's an astronaut who's married to Gabby Giffords. That is like his call to fame, right?
He has a twin brother. They aged differently because one was in space and one wasn't.
What a person to make policies. Right? But you know what his main appealing factor is here, besides those, is that he's not Blake Masters.
Oh, I was gonna say
Oh. He's bald all the way around, though. But by the way, if you don't already follow Dallas Wade, go check out that channel. It's a great channel. I have enjoyed a lot of the content. I haven't watched in a little bit there, Dallas, but very good content there. Definitely go and watch that. But 50-42, and that's just the Fox News poll from August 12th to 16th. Remember, Arizona registered voters, I still stick around because I have something to say. Go on.
moving on.
Yes. U.S. Senate ballot. Take me off the screen. Well, no, that way we can make this louder. This is Colorado, right? The Denver market, 50%. Metro Denver, 52. Rest of Denver, 44. There you go. Basically call this 52-47. No, I'm just kidding. It's 48-40. Michael Bennet, who, if you don't remember, won the Senate in Michael Bennet, he dropped out and went to the Senate in 2020. And now he has that was a special election. Now this one, what you can see here is that Michael Bennet, who is the Democrat, the incumbent in Colorado Senate, has I looked at it, says white, non-white, Hispanic. But he wins in every single one of those. The Hispanic vote 51-38, under 40, 50-32, 40 and under, and then of course is tied 45-45 with 41 to 55-year-olds. And you can see where 56 plus he goes a little underwater, and the amount of undecideds, that's on the bottom right, near the bottom of the screen, 45 to 59, where the undecideds drop down to 6 from that 19 with folks that are 40 and under. That is very telling, in that people who are 40 and under, which is a couple of different generations here, very much favor the Democrat, but there's also a lot of undecideds, and yet it's still negative 18. He's still up 18. 40 and under is your largest voting demographic. It's your largest voting block. And that is, he's up 18 points. And of course, you have pro-choice. He's up 70 to 20. Now, I realize that the pro-life one looks like he's down 68, which makes sense. That makes total sense. But the amount of people in Colorado who are pro-life is not very many. It is, we were talking about this, and we're talking about, you can put it back on the screen now. We were talking about Lauren Boebert earlier. Do you have her thing in there coming upcoming?
I don't know if I have her thing in there.
Okay.
But I do have the website.
Well, no, if you don't, that's fine. I'll bring it up regardless here whenever we go to. No, I mean, I'll bring up the talking point we had earlier. If you don't have it up, that's fine. We'll get to it at the end if not. But, and it's fine if you don't. But because we're talking about the amount of voters who live in the Denver metro versus the amount of voters who, don't. And then how the redistricting happened in 2020 took, if you are, by the way, of the mindset, like myself, in which you would rather not have Lauren Boebert in Congress anymore, I'm going to disappoint you. Are you ready to be disappointed? Lauren Boebert's going to win. I know. Go ahead. Let it out. I had to do this earlier. I understand. Had the pillow, breathing in a bag, all of that stuff. The Lauren Boebert came to me as a Nazi type thing, which just makes sense. Okay. Oh, we didn't have the screenshots of those? Okay.
No.
In which she came she came to me not in a dream, but rather in reality, and she was like, "Yes, we are going to win again. The Nazis, the Americans. I'm Lauren Boebert." Look at this. I love this. Internal Democratic poll shows Lauren Boebert leading challenger Adam Frisch by 7 points. 7 points, and this is really, really important because Susan, you also had the I like how you said hide, and then okay. And then you have the other one as well, right? Yep. This is great. New poll shows Democrat Adam Frisch within 7 points of Lauren Boebert. If you couldn't tell, the Colorado Newsline is a fairly liberal paper. Because 7 points, when we look at this across the board, and we looked at the other folks and we were talking about how that's going to go, 7 points, your goose is cooked type stuff. But at the bottom of this, it mentions polling from fall 2020 showed Democrat Diane Mish Bush beating Boebert by a few percentage points. Boebert, of course, won by a small margin. Stop the count. Recent redistricting, the district, pardon me, recent redistricting puts the district at a 9 percentage point for a Republican. Well, how did that happen? And we actually know, because we looked at it and we saw, and it was actually really easy to see as to how Lauren Boebert is going to be reelected in the U.S. House of Representatives. And here it is. On the left is 2020. On the right is 2022. Thank you, Susan. It doesn't look like that much of a change. And I get why you would say that. Here's what it does, though, is if you look down to the bottom left around Pueblo and Trinidad, it moves the district so that it involves Trinidad and most everything almost to the border of Kansas. And then not much changes if you go up, onto the west, the southwest west, up into just about until you get to, what is that, 95, I think, I-95 of like Fort Collins out toward Craig. It eliminates Craig, Colorado from the district, thus eliminating a fairly liberal voting bloc. So the redistricting helped Lauren Boebert. Did that help a Democrat in another part of the state? Maybe. I didn't look. But what we're talking about is a MAGA candidate who is going to be able to run and then win and say, see, we won by more this year than we did 2 years ago, thus showing that MAGA is alive and well and is sweeping the nation, when we know that's not true. So there you go. Lauren Boebert's going to be in Washington again. I know. Again, breathe. I think it'll be okay. Also, Michael Bennett is beating the fuck out of O'Day. just saying. Is that all of them? Okay. So
that worked out well.
Yes. So, oh, and by the way, at the beginning of the video, if you didn't watch the beginning of the video, you need to go back and watch it, because I had a cool little montage. At the end of the montage, it was 538, 538.com, Nate Silver's little rag that's wrong about fucking everything these days. Yeah, and them laughing about Beto O'Rourke, and I don't say laughing about, they were laughing at him. They were laughing at Beto O'Rourke and his chances in Texas. And so, and I put that in there on purpose. I realized that it's not the Senate, but neither is Lauren Boebert. So that's fine. Connecticut's going blue. And in Kansas, this is also in the opening montage video, which again, feel free to go back and watch that, and then just like leave it on in the background or something, because leaving it on longer helps the channel and all of that. Just like turn the volume down, listen to it for an hour and a half, whatever. Or listen to the whole thing and take all the knowledge and go and impress your friends. And that way you can also say, look at this guy, this bald guy, he was right about everything. And for some reason, I remember him being a Nazi. Susan's on Twitter. I'm not even interesting to my girlfriend. And I brought this up because Kansas, liberal bastion of the Midwest, Kansas, the home of former governor and former election integrity person Chris Kobach, voted a couple weeks back, 3 weeks back, regarding abortion, which is built into and codified into their state's constitution. And a lot of people were like, oh, great, now Kansas is going to take it out of their constitution, etc. And Kansas said, no, fuck this bullshit, and won by 20 points. Those who said no on their referendum sent a referendum to the Republicans saying, no, we do not like what you're doing. That is what Kansas did. The Republicans, by the way, have responded by not bringing forth better candidates, and candidates who are going to be able to compete in the 2022 midterms, which coming up here in under 90 days. Hell, it's almost 60 days. But rather by trotting out the worst candidates you could almost find, and then misstep by misstep by misstep, plenty of them defending the former president's quite obvious, not just breaking the law, but maybe borderline fucking treason, and falling down The worst thing I think that possibly could have happened to the Republicans this year was Roe v. Wade being overturned. Also, on a bit of a more serious note, the worst thing that could have happened to people this year was Roe v. Wade being overturned. Taking that and removing it from politics, which it shouldn't be political anyways. Roe v. Wade shouldn't be used as a political tool. Certainly Republicans have used that over the course of the past 50 fucking years. But it should be used as not a political tool and not a weapon as if it were a veteran, but rather as a reason to say, to consider who I am as a person and to consider, should I support those who are in favor of this? Because these are people's lives we're talking about. The polling data, and I'm going to end with this because we're just over 90 minutes, and I apologize. The polling data comes from firms, and you can see when it's like Rasmussen or Trafalgar or Fox News. Now, mind you, a couple of those are certainly conservative polling data or polling companies. So whenever you see Democrats ahead in this polling from conservative places, you have an idea that it's probably worse than they say it is. Or better, depending on, I guess, your opinion. They poll what are known as likely voters. Likely voters are not just people who say, hey, I'm going to vote, I promise, but rather people who have voted. Most times, people who have voted in the previous 2 or 3 elections. They don't call and poll people who aren't at least registered to vote. And they certainly aren't going to call people who only voted in 2020. They're not considered likely voters. And even if they are considered those voters, it actually doesn't have as much weight applied to it. Those who are more likely to vote are those who are usually more informed and who are more likely to actually go and do it, whereas other people who only voted in 2020 would say, sure, I'm going to go vote, but there's no way to put weight behind that. So you have a lot of people who are now registered to vote who are not being polled. This is what happened in 2018 when I worked on the Beto O'Rourke campaign or Senate campaign down in Texas. The reason that people didn't realize how close that race was because the people that they were polling were only those who they considered likely voters. Texas was 50th out of 50 in midterm election voter turnout prior to 2018. They were also 50th out of 50 in voter registration prior to 2018. In 2018, Texas registered more voters that year than in any year prior and had almost the exact same number of people who voted in 2018 voted in 2016. In a midterm election. And because of that, Beto got within 2 points of a race that many said was not that close. That was a midterm. Well, would you look at this? Here we are in a midterm election. At a point when states like Texas have even more registered voters, in a state like Texas where Governor Abbott in that state is fairly well underwater, or in a state like Arizona, or in a state like Pennsylvania, or in a state like Georgia or Florida, or even Utah, where the likely voter base, A, is dying, or the likely voter base is a lower number to them because more and more people are registering to vote, but they have not been involved in the voting process. Or let me just put another little bit of info there. They like to call landline phones. Guess who have landline phones? Previous generations, or as Susan calls them, old people.
My mom doesn't even have a landline anymore, and she is
There you go.
7.
They do sometimes call cell phones, but it is not preferable. They call people who have landlines. And they poll them because the people who are considered likely voters are the people who have voted the most, thus looking at people who are 55 plus. This is thankfully changing, but then when that happens, what you see is that the electorate starts to change as well. This is why when we look at it, we see that states like Texas actually have more people who lean left than lean right, and have an incredible amount of people who would say they are independent. And that's true. There's actually more liberals in Texas. Well, then, Nathaniel, how does Texas have more? Here's the reason for that. Number one, Texas has 60 some odd percent of their state's population live in 11 counties. There you go. Now you have a supermajority in the fucking House and Senate in Texas. Texas State House and State Senate. That's how that goes. And then, of course, we can talk about gerrymandering all day, but I'm not saying that we shouldn't. I'm not attempting to go beyond that because it is a conversation to be had. Also, ranked choice voting. But that means that what we have are known as silent or secret voters. This happened with Beto back in 2018 as well, and is certainly going to happen more in 2022 than Republicans had been expecting, than certainly is evident on polling. Look at Kansas. Did you know that 47 to 45 people said they were going to the polls and they were going to vote in favor of removing the constitutional, they were going to vote to remove the codification of abortion into the Kansas Constitution? 47 to 45 or 48 to 45 in that little margin there. They voted and won by 20. Do it again. In polling, when they were polled, people in Kansas by either 47 to 45 or 48 to 45 said they were going to vote to remove from codification from the Kansas Constitution the right to an abortion. Those who voted to continue or to have it continued to be codified in Kansas's Constitution won by 20, with more votes than in any previous midterm election. Not just a primary, any midterm election in the state's history. By 20 points, they voted to keep it in the state's constitution. 20. Tell me about the silent majority 2016. Corgi's walking around. He's counting votes. So if I see Susan's telling me to quit. Okay, fair enough.
I love you. I'm sorry.
All right.
It's not
Gotta
like
stop.
a quit right now. It's a wrap up soon.
Very much is a quit right now.
No, it's a wrap
That's
up soon.
absolutely what that
It's a wrap
is.
up soon.
That is a very much quit
It is
right now.
absolutely
My
a wrap
point
up.
has been made. My point is made. You get what I'm saying. There are no, it's fine. If a poll says the Democrat is up by 4 right now, and there's plenty of time. I'm sorry, I'm doing my best here. in my opinion, right now, there is time for Democrats to Democrat this up. Right now, if it says Democrat is up by 4, add 4. If it said the Democrat is down by 4, it's a toss-up. If a Democrat is up by double digits, they're going to win by double digits. Keep that in mind. Because they aren't polling everybody. And Republican women and Hispanic and Latino voters are not okay with this. So Greg Abbott, watch out. Marco Rubio, I would say I'm sorry, Mehmet Oz, but I'm not. I'm glad you're getting your ass beat. So there you go. That's it. Dog's hungry. Susan's hungry. I feel like we went into this okay today, right? And fuck 538 for laughing at Beto. Can I find that on the I wonder if I can just find that in here, and can I click on this and not play it and
Latest poll shows both
playing audio? That's okay. I'm just gonna go to like right there, and cool. I'm gonna play this again right here, okay? Because they thought that it was just hilarious. I'm gonna play this, and then that'll do it. Yeah, I think. Sure.
This I did too.
Wait, there was no question. There's no question in the governor's race, right? We knew that Greg Abbott was going to win, and he wasn't going to a runoff. And we knew that, Beto O'Rourke was going to win his primary and won't be the governor of Texas. So we can stop covering that right now.
Indeed.
It may be funny to you, motherfucker, but it's not funny to me, okay?